Hi, welcome back to the Right on Crime podcast. I'm Carley Widner, and today I'm here with my co-host Nikki Pressley, who's our Deputy Director of Right on Crime, as well as our Senior Policy Analyst Ross Jackson. And before we got on camera today, and up until about 5 seconds ago, we were talking about today's Wordle, which feels very on brand. No spoilers because it's a daily thing, but it was amend, which is perfect for our chat today.
Yes. Ross, do tell. Why is it perfect?
Well, later we'll get into some solutions to a problem that we're talking about today, and one of them, or a couple of them, actually involve amending the Texas Constitution, which we know is a big deal. Nikki, you worked, I don't know how many sessions on amending the Constitution for bail reform.
Yes, exhausting, but it got done.
It
did get done.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, Carly, you can start us off.
Perfect. So today we're talking about rogue prosecutors, and this was something that I found really interesting, that the language around already is something that we have to be just very particular about. So when people say rogue prosecutor, what exactly are they meaning, and how is this different from normal prosecutorial discretion?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a rogue prosecutor is basically a district attorney or a county attorney that is categorically refusing to enforce the law. They're violating their sworn oath of office and effectively nullifying the laws we have in our state. They are following an ideological agenda, usually like they're part of some coalition or group, or they fall under some sort of radical group that's telling them, hey, like, we don't believe that these are actual crimes, like we're not going to pursue these, and then it just leads to chaos and wherever their jurisdiction is.
And are there any consequences they can face directly if they're caught accepting money or bribes from these organizations, or is it all fairly ideological and they're making these decisions on their own?
I mean, there's a lot that we don't know. I'm sure that's happening, and I'm sure they're being punished in some cases for that. Like in Texas, for example, under the current law, you can't implement policies that just blanketly refuse to prosecute the law. And the reason that it's an issue in Texas is you have prosecutors that are not implementing policies per se, but just saying in their office or having a set standard that's not published that we're not going to do this.
So moving forward, what are some other options, and what are the pros and cons of each option, and what do you think we can do moving forward?
Yeah, so there are a lot of options that I kind of discuss in this research paper that just came out, and one of those is creating an office of a chief state prosecutor. Another option is creating an oversight commission, or giving authority to discipline these rogue prosecutors under an existing commission. And then another option would be expanding the prosecutorial authority of the Attorney General. And then the fourth option is creating regional districts with their own judges and prosecutors. And I guess we'll get into all of those different solutions a little bit.
So the chief state prosecutor, though, why would we even need that? Because most states, obviously, the Attorney General has that power.
Right.
So what's different about Texas?
Well, in Texas, because of a Texas Court of Criminal Appeals decision in 2021-2022, the AG doesn't actually have the power to prosecute most crimes. And so that is left to the district attorneys. There's no authority, I guess, to usurp these cases from these individual districts and be prosecuted at the state level, whereas in other states, that is an option.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah. So it's a little bit more complex for us then.
Right.
Got it.
And I guess, when most people think about, a crime being solved, they're picturing, a crime scene and police and maybe your attorney going up and defending you. But what exactly is the role of a prosecutor, and why are they so important to public safety generally? So whenever we think about how, in most cities, crime trends are actually going down, why is it that, that's not the case for every city? And could that be because of these rogue prosecutors?
Absolutely. I mean, I think prosecutors are the ultimate enforcers of the law. If your case never sees justice, the victims are denied justice, the city remains unsafe because there's a criminal still out on the loose. It's not holding people accountable. So I think it's important that we hold everybody in the criminal justice system accountable, not just police, not just criminals, but we've got to hold our prosecutors accountable as well. And as far as the trends go, there's a whole bunch of different explanations as to why crime rises and declines in certain cities. But it's just interesting that in my research, I found that when cities elect prosecutors that have these non-enforcement policies, informal or formal, there have been rises in certain categories of crimes. Whether or not that's related is unknown, but it's just interesting to watch that correlation play out.
Well, and it makes sense because we talk about clearance rates a lot and how enforcement is the biggest deterrent to crime, right?
Right.
And so we talk about that with law enforcement, but it's the same exact thing for prosecutors. So talk a little bit more about the chief state prosecutor and maybe a few other options that the state has. Like I think you mentioned a commission to kind of oversee and potentially remove prosecutors.
Right.
We have a judicial conduct commission. I think maybe they could operate that way, but talk more about those solutions and what we would need to do as a state legislatively in order to enact those changes.
Right. So the first option that you mentioned is the chief state prosecutor, which that would be functionally a statewide district attorney, which in Texas, the legislature completely has the authority to create. This option likely would not require a constitutional amendment like some of the other options do, but basically they would have concurrent authority with district attorneys to where for major crimes they could take these cases and prosecute them out in the court system rather than relying on district attorneys whose ideology may not allow them per se to do.
So why is it though that you could do that statutorily? Because I think there's been a lot of discussion around how that would still require a constitutional amendment to have that statewide prosecutor. So why is it that you wouldn't need an amendment, or at least your opinion is that no amendment would be needed?
Because I mean, it's in statute that the legislature has the authority to create district attorneys. It says that in the law, and it this position would functionally be that. It doesn't restrict the size of a district. The district could be the entire state.
Got it.
That's not specific in the statute. So
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. So your other options then.
Right. So one option is the Oversight Commission, which we've talked a little bit about the Judicial Conduct Commission and how it may just go under that because they have the authority to discipline judges. Why not give them the authority to discipline prosecutors as well? Or we could create an entirely new commission. I know there was a commission in the 70s that functionally did this or was supposed to discipline prosecutors, but that phased out by the 80s. And there was an attempt, I believe, in 2023 when we had that session where we did the misconduct bill. There was a proposal to bring that back and give this commission the authority to discipline prosecutors. Now, this option, if we gave them the option to remove these elected officials from office, that would probably require a constitutional amendment. So that one would be a little bit more of a difficult option than the chief state prosecutor.
Not impossible.
Not
but
impossible.
Difficult.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And of these two options, what are you seeing in other states that's working successfully? And are there any models there that we could more easily implement in Texas?
Right. So Texas, like I talked about a little bit earlier, is unique in that the attorney general doesn't have the authority to do this. So the need for a chief state prosecutor isn't really there like it is in Texas. Maybe Georgia could do this because they have, some similar issues. But that wouldn't really be. But I know they do have commissions in other states where they can discipline prosecutors and attorneys and the likes of that.
And are those states experiencing any backlash from the prosecutors or any groups that are saying this isn't working?
I mean, it's still an issue. You still see it across the country. So I don't think any state has the perfect solution just yet. And I think Texas, this is an opportune time to start experimenting, do what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be laboratories of democracy, create a solution to a problem.
So the last option then,
Yeah.
regional districts with new judges and prosecutors.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And pros, cons.
Right. So this would be a similar option to the chief state prosecutor. Some of the major differences is it wouldn't be statewide. So it would be based in 5 different regions. composed of the 5 biggest cities in Texas and then all of the rural areas. So it would cover the whole state. It would just be regions. The proposals that I have seen as well have included judges. And I think that's where it gets into the constitutional issue a little bit more. And it may require a constitutional amendment. It also is creating basically an entire new level of bureaucracy where you have all of these elected positions. You're going to have funding for them. You're going to have staffing. So it's a little bit more of an expensive option, in my opinion, if you're going to have all of these different offices across the state that are going to have resources to do investigations and that sort of thing. So it's a little bit more of an expensive option. It's creating another level of government, basically. And so I think the chief state prosecutor option is a more limited government approach.
Got it. And so the chief state prosecutor, if that were to be the route that the state takes, what would they have jurisdiction over? I think what the governor has publicly stated is that he wants it for major crimes. Is that correct?
Right. So my understanding is this would be a position that would take major crime cases. So we're talking about 3G offenses like murder, aggravated assault, these kinds of serious cases that district attorneys throughout the state of Texas that have this radical ideology have been proven not to be effective in prosecuting.
Or just dragging their feet, right?
Right.
And not indicting on time, not prioritizing these very serious violent crimes.
Yeah, sending a really bad message to the public and the people that elect
Correct.
them.
And it's very unsafe as well, because then they get released on bail, as we know.
Whenever we're dealing with, anything that applies to both judges and prosecutors, why would bringing judges into that require a constitutional amendment?
Well, judgeships would likely require it to be an elected position. And if you have these elected offices, I would say you probably run into constitutional questions just like when their election is going to be, how they're elected, what their term of service is. I just don't see a route where that doesn't require some sort of constitutional amendment for a major position like that.
So if you had a magic wand or could make a recommendation to members, just as a closing recommendation, is there a combination of some of these options or a single one that you think could be the best? Or are you just looking forward to seeing how it all shakes out? And kind of the debate during session.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting debate. I'm sure there are things that I haven't thought about that'll come up in policy discussions.
Of course.
But right now where I'm sitting is I think a twofold solution would be the best. And I think that would include an oversight commission of some sort. That way we can remove these rogue officials when they're not acting in the best interest of the public. And then having a chief state prosecutor to take these cases and ensure victims get the justice that they deserve. So we can't just, take one side of it and say, okay, we removed the guy. Okay, well, they put someone else in there that has the same ideology and the victims still aren't getting the justice they need. That's not fixing the solution. So I think a two-pronged approach would be the best one at this time.
And you have a research paper that is coming out on all of this. So where can people learn more about that?
You can go to our website, rightoncrime.com, or join us on our social media pages on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank y'all both so much. And you can find more information at rightoncrime.com about rogue prosecutors or any of our other criminal justice issues. Thanks so much.